I am Rajashri ma'am, and today I am here with the second part of the explanation of the lesson, The Coming of Pollyanna. If you have watched the previous video, then you know that Pollyanna is an 11 years old girl. She is an orphan. Her father has died recently and she is coming to stay with Aunt Polly. And Timothy and Nancy, two servants of that house, is has been have been sent to the railway station to receive Pollyanna from there. Timothy was old Tom's son. It was sometimes said in the town that if old Tom was Miss Polly's right hand man, Timothy was her left. In the previous video, you have already been introduced with Nancy, but here it is Timothy. Timothy is the son of old Tom. Old Tom is a very old servant of Miss Aunt Polly's house. It was sometimes said in the town that if old Tom was Miss Polly's right hand man, Timothy was her left. Both Timothy and old Tom both are very sincere and reliable person. Timothy was her left. Timothy was a good-natured youth and a good-looking one as well. Timothy is a young man and he is also good-looking. Short as had been Nancy's stay at the house, the two were already good friends. Nancy has arrived there shortly. She was not staying there for a long time, but they have become good friends. Short as the two today, however, Nancy was too full of her mission to be her usual talkative self, and almost in silence she took the drive to the station and alighted to wait for the train. Nancy today was very much concentrated in her work. That is why she is a very talkative girl, but she is not talking much today because she is too much concentrated in her work, and almost in silence she took the drive to the station and alighted to wait for the train. And when she reached the station, she alighted, that means came down from the buggy and waited for the train. Over and over in her mind, she was saying it: light hair, red check dress, straw hat. And she was repeating in her mind the description which had been given to her by Aunt Polly, so that she didn't forget that. Over and over the work, she was wondering just what sort of child this Pollyanna was anyway. At the same time, when she was thinking about the description of Pollyanna, at the same time she was also thinking about Pollyanna, that how what type of girl she could be. I hope for sake she's quiet and sensible. For her sake, she's quiet and sensible and doesn't drop things, not bang doors. She sighed to Timothy, who had sauntered up to her. And previously, you know that Aunt Polly is a person who gets annoyed in everything. So, annoyed at everything. Nancy was hoping that the girl should be quiet, calm, and composed, so that she doesn't get annoyed or get angry. She sighed to Timothy and she told this to Timothy, who had come to her walking slowly. Well, if she ain't, nobody knows what will become of the rest of us, grinned Timothy. Timothy was not that much anxious. His father is an old servant of that house, and he was also working for a long time, but he was amused to watch the anxiety of Nancy, and that is why he grinned. Grin means to smile ear to ear, and he was smiling ear to ear, and told that if she's not a quiet girl, if she was not a quiet girl, then what would happen to the other people, because everyone would get disturbed by the anger of Aunt Polly. Oh, Timothy, imagine Miss Polly and a noisy kid. There goes the whistle now. You saw that Aunt Polly wanted to live alone, and that is why a noisy kid would be very much disturbing to her. And he said that there goes the whistle now. That means the train has had arrived. Oh, Timothy, I think it was mean to send me, chattered the suddenly frightened Nancy as she turned and hurried to a point where she could best watch the passengers alight at the little station. She was suddenly Nancy got very much anxious, very much tensed because she had to identify the girl. That means Pollyanna, and she got frightened to think about this, and hurriedly went to the train where the passengers had come down from the train. I was not long before Nancy saw her, the slender little girl in the red checked gingham with two fat braids of flaxen hair hanging down her back. And at that time Nancy saw the slender means thin little girl in the red check gingham with two fat braids. Braids is a hairstyle, long hairstyle of flaxen hair. Her hair is light yellow, hanging down her back. Beneath the straw hat, an eager, freckled little face. Freckle is the spots on the face. There were spots. Little face turned to the right and to the left. That means she was trying to see that who had come to receive her, plainly searching for someone. Nancy knew the child at once, but not for some time could she control her shaking knees sufficiently to go to her. But she got anxious, and she was so anxious that her knees are shaking violently, and she had to gather her energy to go to Pollyanna. The little girl was standing quiet by herself when Nancy finally did approach her, and but the girl was not at all tense, and she was standing quietly when Nancy approached her. Are you Miss Pollyanna? She faltered. She said in a hesitating manner, Are you Miss Pollyanna? The next moment she found herself half smothered in the clasp of two gingham clad arms. At that time, Pollyanna had hugged her so tightly that she became breathless. Half smothered means choked, I mean. So she became breathless almost. And the clasp of two gingham clad means dressed. She was wearing a gingham frock, that is why gingham clad. Oh, I am so glad to see you, cried an eager voice in her ear. Of course, I am Pollyanna, and I am so glad you came to meet me. I hoped you would. And without thinking anything, Pollyanna presumed that this was Aunt Polly who had come to receive her, and that is why she readily hugged Nancy and told all these things. Yeah, I am so happy. She got overjoyed to see her Aunt Polly. That means she thought that it was Aunt Polly. You did, stammered Nancy, vaguely wondering how Pollyanna could possibly have known her and wanted her. You did, she repeated, trying to straighten her bonnet. But Nancy got confused. How could Pollyanna know her? And she couldn't understand. She was hugging her to become breathless, and she tied herself up, controlled herself by straightening her bonnet. Oh yes, I have been wondering all that day where you looked like. Sorry, students, I told tired, but it is I means tidied herself. And here you say, oh yes, and I have been wondering all the way here what you looked like, right? The little girl dancing on her toes and sweeping the embarrassed Nancy from head to foot with her eyes. You see that what Nancy had feared, that the child could be noisy, but it has become so. It had become so, and the girl is so much restless that she didn't even ask anything to Nancy, that whether who she was actually, and she presumed everything and started dancing in joy. And now I know, I am glad you look just like you do look. And Nancy was relieved just then to have Timothy come up. And he and Nancy got embarrassed by her act, by Pollyanna's act. And Nancy, but she got relieved just then to have Timothy come up. But she got relieved because Timothy had come there to rescue her. Pollyanna's words had been most confusing. "This is Timothy. Maybe you have a trunk," she stammered. Again, she asked hesitatingly, "You must have a, this is Timothy, and you must have a trunk." How long had Nancy, and this is the second end of the second part, and here are three questions. How long had Nancy worked at the house? Nancy was working for a short time, for a short while at the house. Why was Nancy silent on the way to the station? Nancy was trying to concentrate in the work what she was given. That is why she got silent, kept silent. What type of girl did Nancy hope Pollyanna would be? Nancy hoped that Pollyanna would be a calm and composed or quiet girl. And so this is the part 2, students, and please watch my next video also. I'll give the next part of this lesson in that. And till then, bye, and please subscribe my channel so that you can get the videos one by one in your feed. And thank you.